Hi, my name is George from Mindless Simplicity, and today I wanted to showcase how you can properly choose a League starter for Path of Exile 3.26. There are a lot of builds with League start potential, but how do you know which one is right for you? I wanted to go over a few key points you should be looking for and some things you want to avoid as your starting build. I will not be recommending any builds in this video. This is just to help you pick out the good from the bad League starters. So the first thing you need to decide for your League starter is, what do you want to achieve with it? Do you want to map like crazy? Do you want to boss like crazy? Do you want to farm niche content like Ultimatum or Delve? This is the most important first step in choosing a build. However, most people try to find a nice hybrid that can do both. Just make sure your build has a lot of versatility to do more than just one type of content. The next step is finding a skill that matches what you want to achieve. If you like to boss, then you might want to go build with a lot of damage scaling, like minions, traps, or mines. And if you like to map, then you might want to go build with a lot of clear, like caster or range. It's also important to consider the costs of scaling that gem's damage or clearing capabilities. If you are going a mapping build, it will require a lot of investment to do bossing. And if you are going a bossing build, it might require even more investment or gem swapping to clear your maps. Some of these stipulations can be annoying to deal with, so you have to consider if you're going to be okay with doing that every map. The next thing you should consider is the playstyle of the skill you choose. Some skills end up being one-button presses, while others require you to break your fingers to kill a pack of monsters. However, there are a lot of ways to automate these setups, but it is something to consider for yourself as well. You also want to understand the damage archetype your build does. There are builds that do big hits with critical damage that instantly delete a pack of monsters, and there are some builds that require you to stack damage over time on enemies. Usually critical strike builds are more of a glass cannon because they scale their damage as much as possible, negating defenses. However, with dot builds, they usually focus more on defenses to be able to stack as many DOTs as possible. This is something you also want to consider depending on how you like to clear a map or kill a boss. Next is the cost efficiency of a build or an investment into a build. If your build requires specific unique items or in-game gear to get working, then it's not going to be worth your time. Your League starter should be able to work with all rare gear that only has life and resistances. This way, it gives you a good foundation for you to keep adding on to the build. Your build or build guide should have a tree without clusters in it for mapping, because clusters can be very expensive and it is not something you're going to have day 1 or day 2. You need to understand the costs or the expensive requirements for the build you are going. Next, you want to understand the build's defensive layers. Path of Exile is a very hard game with a lot of layers built into it. You can no longer just cap your resistances and move on. Your build needs a lot of defensive layers, like high evasion, high armor, damage immunity, life leech, spell suppression, block, defensive gems, automated flask, endurance charges, freezing or slowing enemies, blinding enemies, etc. The more ways you can scale these layers into your build, the better experience you're going to have with it. Make sure the build guides you are looking at don't showcase the build in a specific scenario or configuration. This will heavily inflate defensive numbers and give you a much different experience. I also want to briefly talk about going through the acts for your build. Your build should have an early leveling tree so you can test out how it's going to feel at the beginning of League start. You should prioritize movement skills, quicksilver flasks, resistances, and linked sockets in the acts. You should also study the missions that give you skill points and avoid the ones that don't. If you want to take it a step further, I will leave a document in the description that you can use to study map layouts. This should greatly increase your campaign run and help you understand that this build is right for you. The last thing you want to look for in a League start is community support. How does the community feel about the build? Is your build creator making constant changes to the build as new information comes out? Are they scaling the damage, investment, and survivability in other ways? These are just a few questions you want to keep in mind, as many build creators will only use path of building, but never actually test the build in-game. So you won't be able to see what the experience is going to be like without proper footage of the build. Anyways, this is just a very quick and brief guide for the new/average players who don't want to be baited and have a terrible League start. I would use these key points and apply them to any potential builds you are thinking about going. With that being said, let me know what you think and put anything else I may have missed in the comments down below. Peace.